October 25th, 1984, Wilnsdorf, West Germany. A man bolts upright in bed, screaming. His wife wakes in terror as her husband, Günther Stoll, stumbles to a notepad and frantically scribbles 6 letters. YOGTZE. "Now I've got it," he shouts, then refuses to explain. 4 hours later, he's found dying in a ditch, slumped in his own car, naked from the waist down, with injuries that don't match the crash scene. The car, barely damaged. His body, crushed, as if he'd been run over. Before he dies, he whispers one final thing to police, the name of a city. But here's the problem. Investigators would later confirm he had never been there before. This is the YOGTZE case, and nothing about it makes sense. To understand what happened to Günther Stoll, we need to start months before his death. Günther was a 34-year-old food engineer living a quiet life in Wilnsdorf with his wife. By all accounts, he was ordinary. Stable job, no criminal record, no enemies. But in the months leading up to October 1984, Günther began to change. He told friends and family that they were after him, that they were trying to kill him. When pressed about who they were, he became vague, paranoid, evasive. He mentioned something about discovering information through his work, something dangerous. His wife grew concerned. His colleagues noticed the shift, but no one took the threat seriously. They assumed stress, paranoia, perhaps early mental illness. Then came the night of October 25th. Around 11 p.m., Günther shot awake, screaming. His wife watched as he grabbed a pen and paper, his hands shaking, and wrote down 6 letters in crude, hurried handwriting. YOGTZE. "Jetzt hab ich's," he declared in German. "Now I've got it." His wife asked what it meant. He stared at the paper, then at her, and said, "Nothing. It's nothing." Then he tore out of the house and drove away into the night. But it gets stranger. At approximately 11:30 p.m., Günther arrived at a local pub in Wilnsdorf, a place he frequented. Witnesses later told police he seemed agitated but coherent, not drunk, not visibly injured, just tense. He sat with a small group of acquaintances and did something unusual. He brought up his fears again. He told them once more that they were after him, that he was in danger. By now, his friends were used to this. They dismissed it, made jokes, tried to calm him down. Günther stayed at the pub for about 30 minutes. Then, around midnight, he stood up, said goodbye, and walked out to his Volkswagen Golf in the parking lot. Multiple witnesses watched him get into his car alone. He drove off heading north. That was the last time anyone saw Günther Stoll alive and well. What happened in the next few hours is where this case turns from strange to impossible. But it gets stranger. Günther left the pub just after midnight, heading north. His destination? Unknown. But here's what we do know. At some point in the early morning hours of October 26th, Günther Stoll drove nearly 50 kilometers away to the city of Hagen, a place he had no known connection to. No friends, no family, no business. Why did he go there? No one knows. But somewhere in Hagen, or on the road to Hagen, something happened. At around 3 a.m., a driver discovered Günther's white Volkswagen Golf in a ditch along a remote stretch of road on the outskirts of Hagen. The car had gone off the road and crashed into an embankment, but the damage to the vehicle was minor. A small dent, a cracked bumper, nothing catastrophic. The driver approached and found Günther Stoll inside, alive, but barely. He was slumped over, grievously injured, struggling to breathe, and bizarrely, he was naked from the waist down. The witness immediately called for help. Police and ambulance arrived within minutes. As paramedics worked frantically to stabilize him, Günther managed to speak. He uttered a few words, including the name of the city, Hagen. He was rushed to the hospital. 5 hours later, Günther Stoll was pronounced dead. But when investigators examined his body and the crash site, nothing added up. But it gets stranger. The autopsy revealed injuries that were inconsistent with a minor car accident. Günther had suffered massive blunt force trauma to his body, injuries consistent with being run over by a vehicle, not from crashing one. His legs, pelvis, and torso showed crush wounds, the type of damage you'd see if someone had been struck by a car while standing or lying on the ground. But his Volkswagen showed almost no damage, certainly nothing that would cause those injuries. Then there was his clothing, or lack thereof. Why was Günther naked from the waist down? His pants and underwear were never found. There was no explanation in the police report. No signs of assault, just missing clothes. Investigators also found something strange in the car. Traces of soil and dirt that didn't match the crash site. Some reports suggest it resembled grave dirt, though this has never been confirmed. And then there were the witnesses. 2 separate individuals reported seeing 4 unknown men at the crash site around the time Günther's car went into the ditch. These men were never identified. They seemingly vanished before police arrived. Who were they? Why were they there? Were they trying to help, or were they responsible? The police conducted an investigation, but it went cold quickly. The official conclusion was left open. Possibly an accident, possibly a suicide, possibly foul play. But the evidence told a darker story. But it gets stranger. So what really happened to Günther Stoll? Let's look at the theories. Theory 1. Accident or suicide. The official position was that Günther may have caused his own death, either by accident due to erratic behavior or intentionally. But this doesn't explain the blunt force trauma inconsistent with the crash, the missing clothing, the presence of 4 men, or why he drove 50 kilometers to a city he'd never been to. Theory 2. Hit and run. Some believe Günther was struck by another vehicle. Perhaps he stopped on the road, got out, and was hit. The perpetrators panicked, placed him back in his car, and pushed it into the ditch to stage an accident. This explains the injuries, but it doesn't explain the missing pants, the 4 men, or the soil in the car. Theory 3. Murder. This is the theory Günther himself seemed to fear. Perhaps his paranoia was justified. Perhaps he did discover something dangerous, something worth killing for. Perhaps they finally caught up with him that night. Perhaps the 4 men at the scene weren't bystanders. Perhaps they were the killers. And perhaps YOGTZE was his attempt to leave behind a clue, a code, a name, an acronym pointing to who was responsible. But here's the problem. No one has ever definitively decoded YOGTZE. Theories abound. Some think it's an acronym. Others believe it's a name, a location, or a reference to something in his work. One theory suggests it's a partial anagram or a mnemonic device. But after 40 years, YOGTZE remains a mystery within a mystery. But it gets stranger. The YOGTZE case was never solved. Günther Stoll's death remains officially unexplained. The 4 men were never found. The meaning of YOGTZE was never uncovered. His wife maintained until her own death that Günther was murdered, that his paranoia was not delusion, but premonition. And the evidence, as strange and contradictory as it is, seems to support that something sinister happened on that lonely road outside Hagen. A man wakes screaming, writes 6 letters, and dies hours later under impossible circumstances. Was YOGTZE a breakthrough? A warning? A confession? We may never know, but one thing is certain. Günther Stoll knew something, and on October 25th, 1984, that knowledge killed him. What do you think YOGTZE means? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want more unsolved mysteries like this, subscribe and hit the bell, because reality is always stranger than fiction.